Hey guys, tonight we're doing something a little darker, literally. You open your eyes, and something feels wrong. It's quiet, too quiet. No light spills through the curtains. No birds, no distant cars. Just stillness. You reach for your phone, but the screen feels dimmer than usual. The time says 7:13 a.m. But it's completely dark outside. Not cloudy. Not stormy. Just dark. You flip the switch. Lights work. Power's on. Internet's sluggish but working. That makes it worse somehow. You walk outside. No sunrise. Just a black sky. Not starry, not moonlit. Just blank. You check the news. It's global. The sun has vanished. That's the headline. You assume it's some kind of hack. A prank. But the story spreads. No solar output detected from the sun. It's still there in space. Astronomers see the shape, but no radiation, no light, no heat. As if it were shut off. Quietly. Instantly. Then you learn something weird. Sunlight takes a little over 8 minutes to reach Earth. Which means, this happened 8 minutes ago. You were eating cereal when the sun died. People begin calling it the Black Silence. Hashtags, panic, live streams. It's not even cold yet. That's coming later. Right now, your body still feels warmth radiating from surfaces, cars, concrete, rooftops, all slowly giving up their stored heat. Traffic stops. Airports freeze. Governments meet in emergency sessions. But the confusion is universal. How can the sun just stop? It didn't explode. There was no solar flare. No energy surge. Just darkness. Not even infrared. Not a flicker. Some people are weirdly calm. Maybe it's a glitch in observation, they say. Maybe the data's wrong. Others go to rooftops with telescopes and confirm it. The sun is still visible, but lifeless. A pale ghost. Someone posts a simulation. If the sun stops emitting radiation, Earth's orbit remains stable for a while. But the environment? That's a different story. You scroll through your feed. One scientist says, this will be the fastest extinction event in history, unless we adapt immediately. Another says, don't panic. We have hours before major changes. That feels worse than helpful. You go inside. Close the door. The light you turn on feels artificial now, insultingly so. Every LED bulb reminds you what's missing. You try to guess how long your house will hold its warmth. You consider driving. But where? If the sun is gone, there's nowhere better. You text someone you haven't talked to in years. They don't respond. The sky outside doesn't change. It isn't night. It isn't day. It's just nothing. You feel your own heartbeat and wonder how many more you'll get. You're still warm, for now. But something inside you already knows, this is temporary. Everything is. You step outside again and take in what might be the last truly mild air you'll feel for the rest of your life. It's been 8 minutes since the sun went dark, and already the atmosphere is shifting. Not violently. Not with chaos. Just quietly, colder. The science begins rolling in fast. People everywhere are suddenly experts in astrophysics, sharing charts, solar flux graphs, and here's what you need to know threads. Most of it is guesswork. The real scientists aren't tweeting. They're calculating. You learn that the Earth won't immediately freeze. That's the strange part. The oceans, the ground, even the atmosphere, they all have thermal inertia. Momentum. They've been storing heat for billions of years, and they don't forget it in a day. The models say that in the first 24 hours, the average global temperature will drop by just a few degrees Celsius. Survivable. Comfortable even. It lulls people into thinking they have time. They don't. Because here's the real clock now. How long can humanity survive without solar input? Without radiation, photosynthesis stops. That means plants stop growing. Which means food is now a countdown. That doesn't hit most people yet. What they do notice is the light. Or the lack of it. Sunlight isn't just brightness, it's rhythm. Circadian regulation. Hormone triggers. Mood. Sleep. Memory. Time itself. And when it's gone, the world gets unmoored. Artificial light can only do so much. You try to mimic the feel of the sun with a reading lamp, and it's laughable. Yellow bulbs won't save your sanity. You check the clock more often now. Because the sky no longer tells you anything. It just sits there. Blank. No sunrises. No sunsets. Just an endless dark gray nothingness. People start gathering outside just to stand in it. Quietly. Like some part of them is waiting for it to come back on. Like it's a power outage. They still expect it to return. You don't. By the second hour, the news becomes more clinical. Satellite feeds confirm, no radiation, no solar wind, no solar neutrinos. It's not a glitch. The sun isn't hiding. It's dead. Not exploded, just off. Like someone turned the key and walked away. And now we start the countdown. Scientists say Earth's surface will stay above freezing for maybe a week. Maybe 2, in the warmest regions. That's not the real threat, though. It's the systems. Solar panels stop producing. Satellites begin to drift. Without solar input, they rely on backup batteries, which don't last long. GPS grows unreliable. Timekeeping slips. The ISS goes quiet. No more solar charging. You realize how much infrastructure depends on something we've never imagined losing. And it's only been an hour. Governments issue calm statements. People hoard what they can. Store shelves are emptied before noon. Generators sell out instantly. But everyone knows, this isn't a power outage. It's a beginning. The temperature dips slightly. You feel it in the way your breath fogs just a bit more. You boil water for no reason, just to feel heat. You stare at the stove flame longer than usual. It's hypnotic now. Elemental. Without the sun, the center of life, Earth has lost its anchor. You're now a passenger on a ship sailing into deep, cold blackness, with no lighthouse. And for the first time, you think, this is the smallest Earth has ever felt. It's been less than a full day. You've barely slept. You can't even tell if it's night or day anymore, because they no longer exist. Just a continuous dimness outside. Gray, thick, and hollow. Like the sky forgot how to sky. And then you feel it. Not panic. Not fear. Something else. Cold. It's creeping in slowly, like fog on a still lake. Not dramatic. Not freezing yet. But you know where it's going. Everything is just a few degrees off. Just enough to make the air sharper, the silence heavier. You check your thermostat. It's dropped a couple of degrees since morning. You turn the heat up. It kicks on. Still working. Still buying time. Across the world, people are waking up to similar realizations. Not just the absence of light, but the slow absence of warmth. They put on jackets indoors. Sleep under more blankets. Everyone's pretending it's fine. It's not fine. Weather begins to act strangely. With the sun gone, there's no more heat differential between equator and poles. No energy input to drive wind currents. The entire planetary weather system, built over billions of years, is collapsing into stillness. Clouds form, but they don't move much. Jet streams weaken. Storm systems hang like ghosts. What's left of the ocean's surface warmth continues to rise slowly into the atmosphere, but nothing pushes it around. Some places still get rain. Others fall into dry silence. No sun means no evaporation. No evaporation means no sustained cloud cycles. And then, no rain. Drought and darkness. But worse is coming. Temperature projections start getting serious. Day 3, average global temp drops to 5 degrees Celsius. Day 7, close to freezing. Within 2 weeks, it's predicted to hit minus 17 degrees Celsius globally. You can survive that with power. But not forever. People start moving. South, mostly. Toward the equator. Toward geothermal vents. Toward any rumor of light or warmth. But it's all temporary. There's no source anymore. No recharge point. No sunrise waiting around the bend. In places like New York, Berlin, Tokyo, heat usage triples. Grid stress begins. Blackouts roll through major cities. Not because the grid failed, but because it's overloaded by people trying to stop the cold. In some places, backup nuclear plants keep critical buildings running. But fuel isn't infinite. And as solar power dies out completely, battery backup facilities begin to fail too. There's an eerie irony now. Humanity once feared the sun as a threat, solar flares, radiation, UV rays, heat waves. But now, the only threat is its absence. You walk outside for air. The silence is complete. No birds. No insects. No leaf rustle. Wind doesn't have the same force without solar convection. It just drifts. You notice a neighbor's window glowing orange, fireplace, probably. Others are dark. You realize that most homes can't heat themselves for long without external fuel. Electric heaters, gas lines, all tied to infrastructure that's crumbling one watt at a time. Governments announce rationing. Power prioritized for hospitals, shelters, essential services. Some cities go completely dark by design. Energy triage. You stay under more layers. You breathe slower. You start calculating how many canned foods you actually have, even though it's only been a few days. Because you know what's coming. And it's not just winter. It's the end of weather. Day 4. The heat is leaving. Not just your room, your entire planet. And there's nothing replacing it. You wake up wrapped in every blanket you own, and still your fingertips are cold. The thermostat says 14 degrees Celsius indoors. Your heater is still running, but the warmth doesn't linger. Outside, the air is sharp enough to sting. The ground crunches under your boots like brittle glass, even though it hasn't snowed. You check the news, but there's less now. Fewer updates. Fewer broadcasts. Power rationing is taking a toll. Not all satellites are transmitting anymore. Internet speeds crawl. GPS drifts out of sync. Some countries go silent entirely, not offline, just quiet. The Earth is now running on residual warmth. Not from the core, yet, but from everything the sun used to touch. Roads, buildings, trees, oceans. All of it is radiating its last stored heat upward into the sky, and none of it is being replenished. Weather reports are almost meaningless now. Clouds hang in place. Wind speeds plummet. With no solar heat driving circulation, the atmosphere has lost its rhythm. Some regions become permanently overcast, others stay shockingly clear. But the skies remain one thing, dim. And cold. Cities near the equator fare better. The oceans are still releasing warmth there. People crowd the coasts, hoping for just a few more degrees. But those places fill fast. Tensions rise. Refugees from the north push in. Governments enact martial law. Military bases become warming shelters. You hear rumors of mass burnings, not riots, but controlled destruction. Furniture, in used buildings, even vehicles, all burn to keep neighborhoods alive. The irony is hard to ignore. Entire cities built over centuries are being taken apart for heat. And then the food supply starts to crack. Photosynthesis stopped on day 1. That didn't matter at first. But now, plants are dying. Fast. Not because of lack of water, but because of lack of light and heat. No sun means no energy. Crops wither. Hydroponics fail. LED farms can't scale enough. Seeds freeze. Even cold hardy grains can't survive this. Grocery stores go from empty to boarded up. Food becomes currency. A can of beans trades for a coat. A bottle of water gets you an hour near a space heater. Animals are vanishing. Some flee. Most don't. Birds migrate in circles. Insects freeze mid-crawl. Pets disappear quietly. You keep your windows sealed now. Every breath of outside air is a mistake. It lets the cold in, and it never fully leaves. Condensation forms on walls. Pipes groan. The house creaks at night like it's shivering too. And your body feels it. Your fingers are always a little numb. Your nose burns when you breathe. You stay still as much as possible because movement loses heat. You ration your electricity, not for cost, but because you're not sure when the grid will give out. Everyone is guessing now. Your sleep schedule collapses. There's no dawn. No sunset. Just cold, dark, and artificial light. You sleep when your body gives up, and wake up disoriented. Your dreams are bright. Strangely so. Like your mind is trying to recreate the sun. And then, on day 5, you realize the birds are gone. Not just quiet. Gone. You hadn't noticed until now. The silence has deepened. The earth isn't dying all at once. That would almost be merciful. It's dying by withdrawal. 1 degree at a time. One system at a time. And somewhere deep inside, you know, this isn't winter. Winter ends. This won't. It's day 6. You're still alive. That feels like something. The house is colder. Your breath hangs in the air indoors now. You wear gloves inside. The heater runs constantly, but the walls aren't designed for this. They were built to keep summer out, not a solar death. You check online, but most live news feeds have ended. Social media is quieter. What remains is local updates from people posting where emergency shelters are, which blocks still have power, where food deliveries failed. It's less about survival advice now and more about survival observations. Lost another window to frost expansion. Grew ice inside my bedroom. Boiled water turned to slush in 10 minutes. Tomatoes are gone. Lettuce too. Still no sun. Someone posts a satellite image of Earth from orbit. The planet looks the same at first, blue, white, spinning. But then you notice the subtle changes, more cloud coverage near the equator, darker oceans, growing ice caps that don't belong near the tropics. And there's no shadow line anymore. No Terminator, the band of shifting day and night. Earth has no light source now, so there's no side. It just floats, uniformly dim, in space. Global temperature is dropping steadily now. Down below freezing across most continents. Pipes are bursting. Streets are empty. Some areas turn off traffic lights permanently to conserve power. It's not like anyone's driving. And food? It's no longer running out, it's gone. Shelves that were emptied aren't getting restocked. Deliveries stopped days ago. Supply chains weren't built for the end of sunlight. You eat less. Not just a ration. Hunger comes slower in the cold. That's biology. Your body shifts resources toward warmth, away from digestion. You're not sure if it's an advantage or just the beginning of collapse. You check your freezer and realize it's now pointless. The world is a freezer. Meanwhile, world governments are trying to build light. Literally. Giant artificial grow domes. Heat corridors in key cities. Some areas test massive mirror arrays in orbit, but there's no sunlight to reflect anymore. They're just empty steel panels pointed at nothing. Scientists confirm what everyone feared: photosynthesis is over. Permanently. The food chain has begun collapsing. Plankton, dead. That means marine food supply is cut. Fast. Livestock is next. There's no feed. No warmth. No light to regulate their cycles. You read a UN report, pre-scheduled to publish, likely written weeks ago. It says, calmly, the Earth is entering a post-solar phase. A phase. Like it's just another trend. At night, if you can still call it that, the cold bites deeper. Your heating system wheezes. You try not to think about fuel reserves. You keep all your lights dim to stretch time. There's no firewood. Trees are brittle. Nothing dries out anymore. There are stories now of people disappearing, leaving messages. Some flee cities. Some retreat underground. Others just stop checking in. You sit by a tiny lamp, reading old notes, looking at photos. All of them taken in sunlight. You never thought you'd miss shadows. But at least shadows meant there was light. Now, there's only dark. And dark is winning. Day 7. A full week without the sun. You never imagined how fast nature would start falling apart. You assumed it would take months, maybe years. But now you're watching the collapse happen in real time, and the worst part is how quiet it is. Outside, the trees are dying. Not slowly like autumn, but abruptly, leaves frozen in place, bark splitting from rapid contraction, sap turned to ice. The plants that haven't already shriveled are glass-like now. Brittle. Ready to snap under their own weight. And then come the animals. On the news, when it works, you see footage from drone cameras. Herds of deer collapsing in snow that shouldn't exist in Florida. Cows gathered near barn heaters, then gone the next day. Entire forests with no movement. Not even insects. The world is still. Not in a peaceful way, in a dead way. Photosynthesis officially stopped days ago. What remains is stored energy. Plants live off reserves for a little while, but that time's up. Greenhouses are failing unless they're powered by massive generators. But even those can't support large-scale food production. There's not enough fuel, and too many people. You hear about food riots in places that used to be stable. Not looting, just desperation. People trading jewelry for instant noodles. Grown adults crying over a bag of rice. In the oceans, you hadn't thought much about them. Until now. Without sunlight, plankton can't survive. And with no plankton, fish populations collapse. Oxygen levels in the water drop. Coral dies. What's left of the marine ecosystem begins to fall like a chain of dominoes, only now they're made of ice. You see a viral image, a whale floating near the surface of the ocean, its skin covered in frost. Still breathing. Barely. The comment underneath says, "What do you feed the ocean when the sun dies?" Good question. Coastal communities try to switch to deep-sea reserves, but even those are limited. And catching fish is risky. Boats freeze. Engines die. Ice forms mid-voyage. Some ships go out and never return. Then there's the power situation. Coal plants are running hard. Natural gas too. But global fuel reserves weren't built for continuous full-load burning. And fossil fuels require supply chains, trucks, workers, infrastructure. Those are starting to fall apart. It's ironic, for decades, scientists warned about fossil fuel overuse. Now they're the only thing keeping people from freezing. The world burns dead plants and ancient carbon while the living ones die in the fields. You spend more time wrapped in layers. Gloves, hat, scarf, inside. Your home smells like burnt plastic from portable heaters running overtime. You rotate rooms, only heating one at a time. It's the only way to stretch power. Outside, windows have ice on the inside. Pipes groan. Some homes crack from thermal stress. It's not the apocalypse most people imagined. No explosions. No monsters. Just the quiet erasure of all living systems. One layer at a time. There's talk of building solar simulators underground. Whole farms buried under cities. Artificial suns. But they'd take years. We don't have years. We might not even have months. Every breath feels colder than the last. The world hasn't ended. But the biosphere has started to. And you're still here. For now. Day 10. You haven't gone outside in 2 days. Not because it's unsafe, but because it's pointless. The cold is no longer just discomfort. It's invasive. Even indoors, even near heat, it finds you. Through walls. Through clothes. Through skin. You stop checking the temperature. It's not helpful anymore. The news, when it reaches you, says the oceans are starting to freeze. Not all at once, and not everywhere, but at the edges. Shallow bays. Northern coasts. Fishing harbors turn to silent graveyards of ice-locked boats. Even in the tropics, the water is changing. Colder. Sluggish. Less alive. That's what scientists call it now, thermohaline shutdown. Ocean currents were driven by differences in temperature and salt content. With no solar input, those currents are collapsing. The global conveyor belt of ocean heat has stopped moving. Warm water doesn't travel anymore. Cold water just sits. No movement means death. Marine biologists say plankton levels have dropped 90% in less than a week. That's not just bad for fish, that's bad for the atmosphere. Plankton produce oxygen. A lot of it. And they're gone. The air is still breathable, for now. But it's another layer of the Earth's system shutting down. You get curious and try to find satellite images of the equator. Maybe some parts of the world are holding on better. They aren't. Brazil. Kenya. Indonesia. Places where sunlight once baked the earth, now dim, wet, freezing. In some cases, worse than northern regions. Those ecosystems weren't built for cold. The species there don't adapt. They die. Crops were already gone. But now trees are failing. Banana groves. Coconut palms. Coffee plants. Tropical forests wither like forgotten houseplants. Their roots are strong, but their lifeblood, sunlight, is gone. People are retreating underground in growing numbers. Subway tunnels. Mining shafts. Abandoned bunkers. Old Cold War structures once considered outdated now become lifelines. Anywhere that can trap geothermal heat becomes valuable. The phrase bunker migration becomes common in international news, at least where news still happens. You keep hearing that phrase, geothermal heat. That's the next bet. The Earth's core, still hot, still alive. Maybe we can tap into that. Maybe we can live off what's left beneath us, since above us is failing. And then you read about the ice. Antarctica is growing. Fast. Greenland too. Ice sheets expanding like time-lapse photography. They're no longer melting, they're consuming. Not just the poles anymore, but creeping down coastlines. Canada, Scandinavia, northern Russia, all coated. Cities swallowed by silence. That's when you realize, the Earth is beginning to look like one of its own moons. Like Europa. Or Enceladus. Covered in ice, dark, and still spinning. People online share old photos of beach vacations. Sunlight on skin. Shadows. Orange skies. Warmth. These feel like another universe now. As foreign as paintings in a museum. You remember the last time you felt actual sunlight. You don't remember the exact day. That bothers you. Was it warm? Did you stop to enjoy it? Or did you scroll past it, thinking there would be more? Probably. And now, outside your window, there's no wind. No clouds. Just still, low sky. The atmosphere has frozen in place, not literally, not yet, but behaviorally. It's all just waiting. Like the rest of the world. Day 13. The cold is no longer a surprise, it's the new default. Everything you touch feels frozen, even metal objects inside your home. Even water from the tap, when it still flows, is just above freezing. You boil it just to feel like you have control. Reports say the oceans have begun freezing deeper. Not just surface ice on lakes and coastal regions, but the upper layers of the open sea, hundreds of kilometers across. Salt slows the freezing, but not forever. And without wave movement, without solar heat, it's just a matter of time. Satellite images are blurry now, when they exist at all. Clouds hang in strange positions, too dense, too still. The jet streams are gone. Storms no longer move. They just hover and decay. There's no more weather in the traditional sense, just random atmospheric instability. Occasionally it snows, but with no pattern. People stop pretending it's temporary. Governments pivot from crisis response to long-term survival. Public messaging changes. No more hold tight or we're working on it. Now it's prepare to shelter, ration fuel, avoid exposure. City infrastructures are being gutted and rewired. Everything is moving underground. Literally. Emergency shelters are repurposed. Basements are connected with tunnels. Schools are turned into heat hubs. Deep bunkers, some built decades ago, some just a rumor last month, are being activated or constructed in record time. You see images of enormous concrete vaults being filled with soil, indoor agriculture test beds under artificial light. Government-led vertical farms. The goal, grow enough to keep minimal populations alive. But food isn't the only problem. Heat is everything now. Above-ground homes are being abandoned. The cold is too invasive. Too constant. People try to insulate better, but insulation doesn't create warmth, it just delays the loss of it. Once the core temperature drops, you're done. Communities start moving downward. Parking garages. Utility tunnels. Sewers, even. Not glamorous, but warmer by default. Geothermal heat becomes a buzzword, then a goal, then a necessity. Places with access to natural hot springs, volcanic rock, or deep drilling potential become global targets. Iceland. Kenya. Indonesia. Yellowstone. For now, only a fraction of Earth's surface is close enough to the mantle for that heat to make a difference. Everyone else? They dig. Or die. The energy problem intensifies. With fossil fuels depleting and renewables rendered useless by the absence of sunlight, nuclear reactors become the last true powerhouses. Small modular reactors are being rushed into operation. Risks are ignored. Safety is secondary to survival. You read about towns retrofitting abandoned missile silos into underground habitats. They were built to survive nukes. Now they're surviving absence. You make your own adjustments. Block all windows. Build makeshift insulation from old blankets. Only use one room. Let the rest of your house freeze. Every step you take crunches with frost. Then you notice the animals are gone. Not just hiding, gone. No squirrels. No cats. No crows. Nothing moves. Nothing makes noise. You realize with sudden clarity, ecosystems are not collapsing. They've collapsed. The food web that supported Earth's life for millions of years has snapped. And what remains is you. Inside. Alone. Keeping a machine running to push back the cold one more day. And you think, not for the first time. How long can we keep doing this? Day 15. The cold no longer surprises you, it defines you. You move slower now, not from weakness but from efficiency. Every motion burns calories. Every breath lets out warmth. You've become a thermal accountant, spending heat like a currency. And then one morning, or what used to be morning, something shifts. You don't hear birds, obviously. Or wind. But you hear humming. Generators. Nearby shelters have gone fully enclosed. You hadn't seen your neighbors in days. Now, a few are leaving notes taped to doors, come to 8th and Denner. Shared heat. Bring what you can. It's not a trap. It's a collective bunker. Someone organized. You debate it. Leave your house, your base? Risk exposure for shared power? You go. It's a short walk, but brutal. The wind no longer has direction. It comes from everywhere, subtle, but biting. You step carefully over ice that used to be sidewalks. Your eyelashes freeze. Your skin feels stiff, like it's not fully part of your body anymore. The shelter is a former sub-basement of a hospital. About 40 people. Not warm, but warmer. Some generators, an improvised water recycler, 2 grow lamps, and silence. People nod but don't talk much. Conversation uses breath. They let you stay. Later, by a dim heat source, someone tells you a story about the animals. They say the last migratory birds flew in circles until they dropped. Some tried to burrow. Others went still and never moved again. No scavengers followed. Because they're gone too. Then they tell you what's happening at the poles. The polar ice caps have met the expanding mid-latitude freeze lines. Glaciologists call it latitudinal unification, which is a cold way of saying, ice is winning. Antarctica and the Arctic are now pushing into former temperate zones. Their ice sheets no longer melt. They advance. Slowly, but without opposition. And under that ice, ancient life, plants, spores, bacteria, is being locked away again. Just like before. You ask what that means. It means this planet has seen this before, they say. And they're right. Earth has frozen. Multiple times. Not like this, not from solar failure, but from orbital wobbles, volcanic winters, asteroid impacts. It's called Snowball Earth, and it happened 700 million years ago. The planet froze almost entirely. Life barely made it. But it did. You ask if this is worse. They nod. Because this time, it's not temporary. This isn't a shift. It's a cutoff. No sunlight means no photosynthesis. No food web. No slow thaw. Unless the sun comes back, or we replace it, this is permanent. And replacing it? That's next level. A few people in the shelter are engineers. They talk about solar replacement projects, orbital mirrors, artificial suns, fusion reactors. Ideas that might have been possible in 50 years. But now? You'd need materials, energy, a workforce, and decades of infrastructure, all in a world where surface metal now snaps like glass. They're not giving up, though. One woman's trying to retrofit a UV grow lamp system using car batteries and window insulation. Another guy's running simulations to see if it's possible to power hydroponics using a wood stove and mirrors. You admire them. But deep down, you know, this is patchwork. You wonder what's happening in space. Are astronauts alive? Are probes still transmitting? Is the moon still watching? You look up. You don't see the stars anymore. Not from here. Too much atmosphere. Too much frost. You used to look up and see infinity. Now you look up and see a ceiling. And somewhere behind it, a dead star. Day 17. You've adjusted, if surviving in a barely heated concrete bunker with a group of strangers counts as adjusting. The cold is now a constant hum in your body. It's no longer shocking or sharp. It's just there, like a second skin. Everyone looks pale. Movement is slow. Breathing is shallow. You don't waste heat on emotion anymore. But today, someone brings news. Not rumors, data. They've rigged an old observatory on backup power. It still works, barely. And it confirms what many feared, the moon has gone dark. Of course, you knew that already. You hadn't seen it in days. But knowing why feels different. Without the sun's light to reflect, the moon has no glow. It's still there, still orbiting Earth, but it's now a black disk drifting through the sky, invisible to the naked eye. A presence without presence. The tides have changed too. They're weaker. Less dramatic. And in some places, almost gone. The moon still pulls at Earth's oceans, But without the sun's gravitational counterbalance, the balance is broken. Ocean levels are shifting unpredictably. Some coastlines have dried slightly. Others flood in strange ways. Without solar evaporation, rainfall has nearly stopped. Rivers stagnate. Groundwater freezes. Desalination plants, once powered by solar energy, have shut down completely. The world is no longer circulating anything. Light. Water. Wind. Everything is slowing, or still. Migratory animals, those that remain, are disoriented. The moon was their compass. Its cycles told them when to mate, when to move, when to hide. Now those cues are gone. What few animals haven't frozen or wandering in confusion, or simply giving up. In the shelter, you sit with the others as someone lights a candle. It's a dumb idea, open flame in a sealed space, but no one stops them. The flame flickers and throws shadows on the wall. It's the most dynamic thing you've seen all day. You realize how dependent your brain is on change. A flickering candle. A moving shadow. A rising sun. Without those, time itself gets blurry. That's the other loss. The sense of time. No sunrise. No sunset. Just dark. Clocks tell you it's morning, but your body disagrees. Days blur into each other. You sleep whenever. Wake whenever. Time becomes internal, unreliable, warped. People start talking less. There's nothing to report. And no reason to track days when nothing outside changes. Then, during a group meeting, someone asks, "Do we think it's ever coming back?" Silence. Then a shrug. Another voice says, "Even if it does, we might not." That's the quiet truth. We weren't built for this. Our bodies need light. Not just warmth, but rhythm. The circadian cycle is tied to sunlight. Hormones. Memory. Sleep. Without it, minds slip. People are still physically alive. But mentally, some are fading. A man in the far corner of the shelter stares at a blank wall for hours. You ask him if he's okay. He says, "I'm watching the moon rise." There is no moon. You nod anyway. Because what else can you say? Day 19. You wake up with a dull headache and the same dream you've had for the past 3 nights, sunlight. Not blazing or warm, just enough to read by. You feel it on your skin, and for a moment, it's like the world is back to normal. Then you wake, and it's darker than before. The bunker is silent except for the low buzz of a generator. It's not as strong as it used to be. They're cycling power now, 12 hours on, 12 off. Not enough fuel. The heaters only run during sleeping hours, which feels backward, but everything feels backward lately. Outside, it's minus 60 degrees Celsius and falling. You don't go outside anymore. The Earth is entering a deep freeze. You learn a new term, radiative collapse. It's the process of Earth losing its remaining surface heat to space. No more incoming radiation from the sun. No atmosphere thick enough to trap warmth. The planet is now an object in cooling decay, like a rock in space. It's happening fast. Earth's average temperature has dropped below minus 30 degrees Celsius globally. The equator is now as cold as Antarctica used to be. And Antarctica? Beyond uninhabitable. Scientists tried to remain in their stations there. They're gone now. One by one, silent. Ocean ice is thickening. Not just freezing on the surface but expanding downward, crushing marine ecosystems. The cold penetrates even deep-sea thermal zones. Thermal vents once thought invincible are beginning to cool. Someone in the shelter, a marine biologist, says flatly, "We may have seen the last whale." No one responds. With solar energy gone, satellites have begun to fall from orbit. No thrust correction. No signal relay. A few burned up on re-entry. Most just float, dead weight around a dying world. GPS is useless. Communications are increasingly ground-based, limited to line-of-sight or hardwired lines. You begin to notice frost creeping indoors. Corners of walls. Edges of books. It's not from outside air, it's just cold seeping in from everywhere. Pipes have frozen. Water is now rationed. You boil snow. You don't think about it much anymore. You just do it. Psychologists in the shelter try to help. They talk about maintaining routines, sharing stories, focusing on small goals. But the truth is, there's not much to focus on. Every plan is temporary. Every goal feels performative. Still, you help where you can. You assist in the lamp room, where 2 people are trying to grow spinach under UV bulbs. They've gotten a few leaves to sprout. Nothing much. But everyone looks at those leaves like they're holy. You stare at them longer than you should. Green feels alien now. Elsewhere, people are experimenting with fungi. Mushrooms grow in the dark. Maybe that's the future, bunkers and mushrooms. You try not to laugh at the thought. It's not funny, but it's real. You check your notes from earlier days. The things you used to write: sunrise times, outdoor temperature, how long the power lasted. Now you just draw lines. One for each day survived. Simple, clean, meaningless without the sun to mark anything. Someone in the shelter draws a calendar on the wall. It's just blank squares with numbers. Nobody agrees on the date anymore. But you all agree on one thing. Time is still passing. And Earth is still dying. Day 21. You don't wake up from sleep anymore, just from unconsciousness. Your body shuts down, rests, and rises without asking you. There's no morning. There's no night. Your internal clock doesn't tick, it just clicks forward, randomly. Someone in the shelter mentioned that circadian rhythms are breaking down. It's not just tiredness, it's neurological. Without light cues, the brain misfires. Memory blurs. Mood shifts unpredictably. People forget what they said. Some forget their own age. You don't dream of the sun anymore. You dream of light bulbs. Flickering, buzzing, uneven. There's no calendar on the wall now. It was wiped clean. Frost claimed it. Now it's just a frozen whiteboard. The numbers, erased by the air. Outside, nothing moves. The last time someone checked the surface, it was minus 75 degrees Celsius. Nothing living survives that unprotected. Not for long. You hear stories from other shelters. Some are thriving, relatively speaking. Old military bases with independent geothermal systems. Deep underground labs. Missile silos turned colonies. These places had plans. Some even had food reserves, fusion prototypes, farming modules. You envy them, but you also know the truth: the world isn't ending for everyone at once. It's ending in waves. Some faster. Some slower. All moving in the same direction. Downward. You notice changes in the people around you. Less talk. More quiet. Not solemn, just flat. Emotional range has narrowed. No one argues anymore. No one celebrates anything. There's no reason to. People nod instead of greeting. They rest instead of sleeping. They endure instead of living. And yet, there's a strange kind of stability in the bunker now. You know the systems. You know who needs what. You know which heater flickers when and how to reset it. You know the rhythm of food rations, the days the generators are cycled, the hour the water is boiled. It's bleak, but it's order. A few people have formed reading groups. Someone salvaged a crate of old novels from a nearby school. You read slowly, conserving your breath. Paper crackles. Your gloves stick to pages. One night, a woman reads a story aloud. Something about a desert explorer. It doesn't matter. What matters is the sound. A voice in the dark. Everyone listens like it's the last human sound. Later, in the silence, You try to remember what a beach felt like. The smell of salt. The warmth of sun on skin. The hot sand between toes. It feels made up now. Like something you read in a book. The shelter's lights flicker. The fuel gauge drops below critical. Generators are close to shutting down permanently. You discuss alternatives. There aren't many. Wood? Gone. Coal? Limited. Solar? Don't be funny. The only real energy source left is geothermal, and this shelter wasn't built for it. You're scavengers. Patchers. Survivors of the early layer. Deeper survival will belong to someone else. You think about what life will be like if this continues for months. Years. Generations. No Sunday. Just low heat. Artificial light. Rituals replacing seasons. Memories replacing weather. A permanent dusk. And you realize, we didn't just lose the sun. We lost the story it told. Day 23. The shelter is quiet. Not silent, just quieter than before. You can hear the hum of the remaining power system and the occasional footstep echoing through the halls. Everything else is a muffled presence, like the world is wrapped in layers of ice, which it is. Someone in the engineering group brings news. Earth is drifting. Not in a poetic way, in a literal way. Without the sun's gravitational pull holding Earth in place, the planet is no longer in a stable orbit. For now, inertia carries it along its original path, but it's unanchored. And over time, tiny gravitational influences, passing stars, galactic currents, will nudge it further and further into space. No one knows where it's headed. The scale is too large, the model's too incomplete. It might take centuries to drift far enough to notice. Or it might be happening already, just not measurable from inside this ice-covered tomb of a world. You stare at the floor when they tell you. The idea of Earth floating alone, off course, without a star, it's not just sad. It's wrong. The sun wasn't just warmth. It was direction. Orientation. A center to spin around, to measure time, to belong to. Now we don't belong anywhere. Other things are changing too. The sky, what little of it is visible, is darker than ever. Starlight is dimmer, even on clear nights. The atmosphere is thinning, freezing, collapsing. With no convection, upper atmospheric layers are falling. Gravity wins again. Astronomers, those who still have equipment, report optical distortion. Light from distant stars now bends differently, subtly, as it passes through denser layers of frozen gas. It's like Earth is putting on a glass dome, slowly turning into a drifting observatory no one can leave. Someone in the shelter makes a joke, we're turning into a snow globe for aliens. No one laughs, but no one frowns either. A few still hope for rescue. From space. From other humans. From someone. Maybe an interstellar probe that made it far enough to bounce back signals. Maybe someone built something somewhere to replace the sun. You don't say it out loud, but you know how unlikely that is. Even if someone did build an artificial sun, how would it find us? We're not just frozen, we're lost. That same night, the shelter receives a long-range transmission. Audio only. Distorted. Faint. It's a repeating pattern. Morse code. Someone decodes it. Still here. Station Alpha. Day 21, 32 people. Holding. They're somewhere else. Possibly another bunker. Still alive. For a moment, the room feels warmer, not from temperature, but from connection. Proof that someone else is enduring. That the dark hasn't erased everything. People begin replying in kind. Morse. Radio. Static. Short-range pings into the void. It's not communication, not yet. But it's the beginning of a network. You think, maybe this is what survival looks like now, not rebuilding, not restoring, but simply reaching. Earth is adrift. The sun is gone. Time has no anchor. But somewhere, someone else is tapping out signals. And that's enough to keep going. Day 25. The Earth has become a graveyard of warmth. Everything that once held heat is now empty. Buildings creak from thermal contraction. Metal snaps. Wood cracks. Concrete splits silently under layers of ice. You stay below ground. Everyone does. The surface is inhospitable, but more than that, it's irrelevant. Nothing happens up there anymore. No light. No weather. No reason. The shelter's power is nearly out. The last drums of fuel are being used sparingly. You're down to essential systems only: heating, air filtration, a single UV grow lamp that keeps one tray of moldy lettuce barely alive. The psychological toll is visible now. People move like ghosts. Speech is soft, rare. Eyes are red from strain and dryness. No one uses names anymore. They just nod, or don't. But today, something unusual happens. One of the science teams reports a discovery: deep geothermal heat beneath a collapsed mining site nearby. Old data said it might be accessible. The catch? You'd have to go topside to reach the entrance, and dig. A risk. A big one. The vote is almost unanimous. Go. Within hours, a small crew preps. You're among them. You gear up in everything you have: layers of salvaged gear, plastic sheeting over boots, tape around your neck and wrists. You look like a walking patchwork survival manual. Still, the cold gets in instantly. As you exit the hatch, it's like stepping into another planet. The sky is black and flat. The ground is covered in thick, uneven frost. Buildings are distorted by ice, their frames bent by months of pressure. Trees are skeletons, frozen mid-collapse. Power lines hang low under the weight of frost. Cars sit frozen mid-street, windows shattered inward. No wind. No sound. Just a low groan, ice shifting under its own mass. You walk. Every step feels like it might be your last. Not from exhaustion, but from absurdity. You're digging into the dead earth to borrow heat from its core, because the sun gave up and no one else is coming. You find the mine entrance. It's partially collapsed. You clear debris for hours. Hands numb. One person collapses from exertion. Another's suit tears, frostbite forming within seconds. But you get through. The shaft is intact. And inside, it's warmer. Not by much. But measurable. The temperature rises by a few degrees for every 100 meters of depth. It's enough. You return to the bunker with coordinates and a plan. There's talk of relocation. The shelter begins rerouting power to tools, digging equipment, heaters. People organize again. The energy returns, not in the grid, but in the group. Hope, faint as it is, spreads like static electricity. No one's celebrating. But no one is shutting down either. You've moved from survival into strategy. And that shift is everything. Day 27. Work begins before anyone speaks. No alarm, no announcements, just movement. The bunker has a new rhythm now. Purpose. There's no light at the end of the tunnel, but there is a tunnel. You return to the mining site in rotations. No one stays up top longer than 45 minutes. The surface temperature has dropped to minus 85 degrees Celsius. Any longer and joint seize. Breath freezes. You can feel your own sweat turn solid under your clothes. The entrance is clearer now. Reinforced with metal struts from gutted cars, lined with heat-taped insulation. The path inward smells like rock dust and rusted memory. As you descend, you feel it. Not warm, but less cold. In this world, that counts. The plan is simple: go deep. Tap the Earth's remaining warmth. Create a sealed living chamber powered by geothermal differential. Someone calls it the core plan. Another suggests New Earth. You just call it maybe. The science is on your side. Earth's core is still molten, still radiating heat. It's 6,000 degrees Celsius in there. Even with the crust acting as insulation, there's enough energy to sustain life, if you can reach it safely and convert it efficiently. That's the new mission. Work crews drill and chip. Old mining equipment is repurposed, retrofitted with salvaged battery packs and rigged fuel lines. No one sleeps through the night anymore. Sleep happens in 4-hour cycles, 2 in warmth, 2 in silence. Back at the shelter, others build the conversion system. Heat exchangers. Closed-loop steam cycles. You're not creating energy, you're moving it. Stealing from the planet's bones. You think about how ironic that is. We burned its surface, drained its fuels, cut down its forests. Now we're clinging to its core, hoping there's enough life left inside the Earth to let us borrow some. Some say it's poetic. You think it's just practical. Word spreads to other shelters. You've reconnected with at least 3 through shortwave relays. Signal quality is poor, but consistent. There's talk of unification. Shared data. Standardized equipment. The beginnings of a new network, deep Earth, subcrust civilization. Maps are redrawn underground. The surface is gone. Someone asks a question during dinner, which is just broth now: what if we outlive the sun? No one laughs. It's a fair point. The sun may be dead forever. Or asleep. Or changed. Maybe it's still there, just invisible. Maybe it moved on. But the Earth, at least for now, is still doing something. You can't stop thinking about it. The planet under your feet is burning. Quietly. Consistently. Without needing light, approval, or attention. And for the first time in weeks, you feel something you hadn't expected. Respect. Not hope. Not joy. Just deep, quiet respect for a planet that kept its furnace going, even when everything else went cold. You drill deeper. Day 30. You don't say days much anymore. You measure time by depth now. Meters, not minutes. The geothermal shaft is nearing 500 meters. It's barely scratching the crust, but it's enough. The lower you go, the warmer the rock. At the bottom, the walls are damp, not from surface water, but from pressure. You can feel the difference. Your breath doesn't fog. Your fingers don't sting. That's the new luxury, feeling your fingers. The upper part of the shaft has been reinforced, makeshift elevators run on pulleys and reclaimed motors. It's not efficient, but it's working. Supply runs. Personnel rotation. Sensor cables. Every wire, every scrap of insulation is accounted for. In the shelter, the heat exchangers are operational. The first time they ran, it was barely noticeable, maybe 1 degree Celsius warmer. But it was controlled heat. Not from a fire, not from fuel. From the Earth itself. There was no celebration. Just quiet gratitude. You've begun phase 2, expansion. Building living quarters further down. Turning hollow rock into habitation. It's claustrophobic. The air is dense. But it's warmer than the surface, and that makes it paradise. People are changing. Physically. Mentally. Skin is paler now. Muscles are tighter. Voices are lower. The cold shaped everyone in small, permanent ways. But there's stability. Sleep patterns are regulated artificially, soft light cycles, carefully timed meals. Some people talk again. Not casually, but with purpose. The shelter has split into task groups. Drilling team. Systems team. Food production. Education. Yes, education. Someone's teaching a child how to read using a tablet charged by hand crank. You watch her finger trace words that say light, sun, day, and wonder if she'll ever know what those mean. Not conceptually, but bodily. You realize we're already building culture in the dark. There are new words, new jokes, new routines. Songs adapted to low breath. Games played in silence, Art drawn with thermal ink that reveals itself only under warmth. Above ground, the world continues dying. We receive fewer transmissions from other shelters. Not because they've gone silent, but because they've gone deeper. Some are too far now for low-power communication. Others are behind thicker layers of rock. Signal degradation is part of the new physics. We're no longer a planet of connected nations. We're a planet of disconnected pockets of warmth. One of the engineers mentions that we'll have to adapt biologically soon. If the surface is permanently lost, future generations may never see sunlight. Their eyes will change. Skin will adjust. Bone density, oxygen efficiency, everything will evolve. You ask how long that would take. They say, not long enough to plan for. So instead, we plan for machinery. More efficient converters. Smaller reactors. Water recapture units. Compact farms. The first successful hydroponic unit produces 6 edible leaves. They're thin. Pale. Bitter. Everyone shares one. Someone cries while eating. Not because it's good. Because it's new. You sleep near a heat pipe now. It hums with warmth, a faint vibration that reminds you something is still moving in this world. Not the stars. Not the clouds. Just heat. From a planet doing its best to keep you alive. Day 32. You mark it not on a calendar, those don't mean anything anymore, but by habit. One scratch on a steel beam near the tunnel entrance. You do it with a bolt. The line is shallow, uneven, and unnecessary. But it's yours. Above, the surface is unrecognizable. The latest scout mission confirmed it, full glaciation. Every visible city, forest, coastline, entombed. Roads erased. Rivers frozen mid-turn. Buildings flattened by snowpack. Earth's geography is smoothing out. Edges gone. Details gone. The planet is becoming a blank sphere of ice. But below, the story continues. The geothermal chambers are expanding. You've hollowed out 2 more living spaces and a new agricultural chamber. Mushrooms are growing. Not quickly, not abundantly, but reliably. They don't taste like much. Someone joked they taste like wet ideas. Everyone laughed. You're learning to live with less. Less movement. Less sound. Less visual input. People stop noticing color. Most things are gray, brown, or pale. Memory becomes a substitute for sensation. One night, someone hooks up an old projector. Powered by hand crank. They play video clips from the pre-event era, beaches, cities, forests. Sunlight through trees. Sunlight on waves. Sunlight on skin. No one speaks while it plays. You realize, the footage feels artificial. Not because it's fake, but because your body can no longer match the memory to reality. Light, real sunlight, wasn't just visual. It had temperature. You remember how it smelled, how it sounded, how it felt behind your eyes. But now it's only pixels. Silent ghosts of a warm world. Afterward, people stay up. Not talking, just sitting together. Facing the projector screen, now blank. Some cry. Some don't know why. The shelter psychologist, a quiet man with frostbitten ears, gives a small talk the next day. He says what everyone knows but won't admit, depression is rising. Not the dramatic kind. The quiet kind. Apathy. Disconnection. Numbness. He recommends 3 things. Structure. Shared purpose. And stories. Stories, he says, remind us that time still exists. You begin telling stories during meal prep. Not epic tales, just small ones. Childhood memories. A favorite place. A weird dream. Stories of who people were before. And sometimes, what they hope to be after. Someone suggests keeping a record. A written one. A woman volunteers to be the archivist. She takes notes every day. Records population, air quality, project progress, jokes, dreams, failures, the first fungus to die, the first to fruit, the first handshake in 2 weeks. Everything. You ask why it matters. She says, because we're already history. You don't argue. And you keep going. Because here, under miles of ice, in a dead star system, inside a planet clinging to its last warmth, people are still telling stories. And that means time is still alive. Day 35. There's a rumor going around, someone saw a bird. You don't believe it, but you listen anyway. Supposedly, a scout returning from the collapsed rail tunnel caught movement, just a flicker, in the ice. A small shape. Wings. Gone in a blink. The shelter humors it. Someone sketches what it might have been. Someone else bakes a bread mold in its shape. For a day, the idea of a living bird becomes a story. A totem. No one asks if it's true. It doesn't matter. Because truth isn't the currency here anymore. Survival is. And survival is cold. The geothermal dig has hit a milestone, 800 meters. Temperatures down there are stable, even warm. You've begun routing excess heat upward, distributing it through a network of steel vents. The shelter is no longer freezing, just cold. A subtle, vital difference. Farming chambers are expanding. Algae. Yeast. Mushrooms. Things that don't need sunlight. The taste of life now is bitter and soft. But it's enough. You've begun cycling people through rest pods more effectively. Timed lights. Gentle vibrations. Audio cues instead of sunlight. It doesn't fully replace circadian rhythm, but it's something. The archivist begins organizing logs. Not just notes, but histories. She asks everyone to write down one memory of the sun. You struggle. You sit for a long time. Pen in hand. Blank page. Then you remember a moment, walking down a road, warm pavement beneath bare feet, squinting as light poured between buildings. No sound but cicadas. That was it. No crisis. No revelation. Just heat, and light, and the illusion that it would always be there. You write it down. You fold it, give it to her. She nods and adds it to a growing box labeled Sun Files. Elsewhere in the shelter, new ideas emerge. One person sketches a massive underground rail system to connect surviving bunkers. Another is prototyping a low-energy water recycling suit, based on space mission designs. Someone else, once a video game developer, is designing an education module for kids, to teach them about the surface they may never see. You realize something strange. This isn't survival anymore. This is adaptation. A new human culture is taking root, not in the open, not in cities, not under the stars, but beneath kilometers of rock and ice. A place with no sky. And yet, it works. There's an order to it. A strange stillness. A rhythm. People still die, exposure, illness, exhaustion, but not in waves. Not like before. The systems are stabilizing. The air stays breathable. The heat, sustainable. The food, just enough. And when you sleep, you don't dream of sunlight anymore. You dream of pipes. Of tunnels. Of roots. Of warm stone and quiet, and the sound of machines breathing beside you. This isn't Earth as it was. But it's Earth, still. And that's more than you expected. Day 39. You're standing in front of a reflective panel, the closest thing this bunker has to a mirror, and you barely recognize yourself. Pale. Sharper around the eyes. Slower posture. You've lost weight, but not health. You look adapted. The others are the same. No one looks like they used to. Everyone's bodies have shifted to the demands of underground life. Skin paler. Movements quieter. Even voices are softer, like people are conserving sound. Outside, Earth is silent, fully encased in ice. The surface temperature has stabilized around -100 degrees Celsius. There is no wind anymore. No storms. No weather. Just stillness. From above, Earth now resembles Europa. A smooth, frozen moon drifting through space. But the inside is different. Inside, life continues, not with comfort, but with structure. The geothermal network expands slowly. Your shelter has linked with a second facility via a 2-kilometer underground tunnel. They sent one person through, wrapped in thermal layers, carrying messages on paper. The connection worked. The message was short: you are not alone. You've added 2 new grow chambers. Fungi, again. One is experimenting with artificial pollination of cold-adapted algae. It might work. It might fail. The point is, it's happening. The archivist has started calling this era the shift in her records. She says it's the cleanest term. Not collapse. Not apocalypse. Just shift. People accept it. There's no push to restore what was. The surface is gone. So is the sun. That isn't a setback, it's a boundary. The new world is underground, quiet, warm, and slow. Cultural memory is beginning to shift too. Children are told stories of the sun like a myth, a ball of fire that lived in the sky, woke the world, gave light. Some kids ask, why did it go away? No one has an answer. It doesn't matter. The new myths are about heat pipes, tunnels, mushroom towers, and geothermal winds. The surface is no longer a place. It's a story. And in that story, we used to fly and swim and burn under a golden sky. But then the sky went out, and we went down, and in going down, we found something else. Time. Because down here, we still mark it. Still live inside it. Still build routines and calendars and language. Time hasn't ended. It just relocated. And with it, so did we. Day 42. You've stopped keeping individual count. It's the shelter's system now, centralized, agreed upon. Every cycle equals 1 Earth day, not because of the rotation above, but because it's what people need, rhythm. You wake at 7 o'clock bunker time. The lights simulate a morning glow, cool white, time to rise slowly. There's no warmth to it, not really, but it feels like something. And at this point, that's enough. You eat the same breakfast, a nutrient broth with mushroom protein. There's a new strain in development, tastes almost like lentils. Someone jokes it's the first flavor anyone's recognized in weeks. The shelter is calmer now. Daily tasks, scheduled maintenance, learning rotations. New arrivals from 2 smaller outposts have been integrated. Population, 97. That's a number no one expected. And yet, here you are. You're assigned to the archive group today. A mix of history keepers, memory stewards, and digital preservation volunteers. The archivist shows you the logs, hundreds of entries. Voice notes. Handwritten memories. Inventories of extinct surface plants. Pictures of birds, labeled by children. Songs sung under power outages. She tells you, this is how we'll be remembered. And you believe her. Not because it's dramatic, but because it's true. Down here, this is the new history. Not kings and wars, but heat pipes and fungi. The day the 3rd reactor failed and the room stayed warm anyway. The first successful oxygen recycling run. The last baby born above ground. That's what matters now. You realize something, you're not waiting anymore. Not for rescue. Not for the sun. Not for a return to normal. You've built a new normal. And with it comes a strange feeling, not joy exactly, but clarity. The surface is no longer mourned. It's respected. A place that once held us, now asleep. And beneath it, we carry on. The Earth keeps spinning, slowly drifting through space, frozen solid on the outside, but alive, barely, at its core. You think about what the next 100 years could look like. An underground civilization. Adapted to silence. To heat. To depth. To each other. And maybe someday, someone will return to the surface, not to reclaim it, but to witness it. To stand under a black sky and say, this is where we came from. Then go back underground, where life truly lives now. Because you've learned something no textbook ever taught. The sun wasn't what kept us human. It was each other. You lie down in your small sleeping chamber, just large enough to stretch your legs, padded with thermal blankets, dimly lit by a soft blue glow from a recycled screen. The hum of the shelter is steady now, like a heartbeat in the stone. Outside these walls, the earth is silent. A frozen sphere adrift in the dark. It no longer turns for the sun. It no longer warms for life. It just drifts. But inside, there's movement. Small gestures. Slow breaths. Quiet work. You think about how strange it is that in a world without light, life didn't vanish. It adjusted. It crouched deeper into the planet and found ways to keep going. No birdsong. No breeze. No morning. But still, stories. Laughter. Heat. It's quieter now. The lights in your corridor dim to simulate night, though it means little. The sleep cycle was programmed hours ago, and your body accepts it, even if your mind doesn't fully believe. You close your eyes, and for a moment, your memory betrays you. You see sunlight. Real, golden sunlight. Not a lamp. Not a screen. A memory. It's soft, warm, ordinary. And gone. Still, you smile. Because even if it never comes back, it was once real. And so were you, standing beneath it. You roll to your side, tuck your hands beneath the blanket, and listen to the low rumble of geothermal pipes. And you think, we survived the death of a star. And now, in the quiet warmth of what remains, we begin again, not because we knew how, but because we had to. And because, somewhere in the dark, something small still burns. Good night, explorer. Sweet dreams.